I wonder if any of you know what it's like to be stuck, to feel stuck. Stuck in a situation, a location, a mindset. That feeling that you want out, but the murky mud that you're in makes it impossible to see how to get out. Your feet won't move. Your mind won't formulate anything resembling a plan to get you out. That's how I was feeling some time ago. Stuck, unhappy in my relationship, unhappy in my career, in love with the city I was in, New York, but not recognizing myself in it anymore. Documenting my experience through these selfies helped me to understand that if I did not find a way to change my circumstances, that I would sink further into this swamp and perhaps lose myself entirely. Yoga and meditation have always been practices that I have used to ground myself and quiet my busy mind. And unfortunately, these are also the first things to go when life gets really messy. You say to yourself, I don't have time to sit quietly or practice self-care. I have to figure my life out. But I was desperate, determined to pull myself out of this hopeless state. And so I summoned the strength to trudge my feet heavily in the direction of my favorite yoga studio in Manhattan, regularly. I was experiencing a range of emotions and visions. I was angry. I wanted to scream into the void. I felt claustrophobic. I wanted to be alone and not have to answer to anyone for once. I felt so stuck. And then something amazing happened. In the silence of meditation one hot summer evening, something opened up. I heard a voice inside me that said, "You're not stuck. You're free. Go, be free. Do something for you." And just like that, I felt like I had a way out. So the plan was this: a 3-month trip around the world. Buy one-way tickets, reach out to all the interesting and adventurous people and friends that I have collected over years of international and open-minded living. Keep moving. Don't stay in one place. Don't get stuck in the mud. There were all sorts of logistics and hurdles to negotiate, of course, but I was committed, and things started to fall into place. Before I left, my colleague gave me this beautiful gift, a compass on a chain, to remind me that I would always be able to find my way. My first stop was to visit an old friend on Canada's East Coast. One day we drove up to the Look-Off for a view of the place that I had called home for over 4 years when I was a student at Acadia University. We talked and laughed and raged at the world in semi-serious fashion. And as we howled over the valley, I realized that my vision of screaming into the void had kind of manifested. And I looked down at the land below me and I wondered, is it as simple as that? Just get on a plane, get some perspective, and the murky mud transforms into more manageable patches of earth. Yet, as we wound our way back to my friend's home, and I prepared for the next leg of my journey, reality was knocking at the door. I received word of the death of a close friend and the serious injury of another back in New York. And it was really hard to continue my journey from there, but I felt like I had to. And I also felt like I was in a quicksand that was somehow pulling me down, even as the plane lifted off and the sea stretched before me. To be honest, the next few weeks, months, were a bit of a blur. I visited London and a few other places I knew people in the UK. I spent my birthday in Amsterdam, which for some reason was the only time and location-specific or aspect of the trip that I had planned. I drove up the coast of Portugal before visiting a friend in Rome. It was nice. I was moving along, but the pace felt a little desperate, and that coveted alone time that I had been craving was turning into this dreadful sense of loneliness. But I hoped to find some peace and grounding and connection at my next stop, which was to visit my brother in Bahrain. But still, I strained to find relief. I'm smiling in this picture, but I'm feeling like the desert is going to swallow me whole. I carried on. Sri Lanka, Vietnam, Australia. Each place held old friends and fresh adventures, and at times that felt like just enough, and at times it didn't. And my feet just trudged along in different versions of dust, grit, or sand. The place I visited the longest was New Zealand. I spent 3 weeks in a beautiful but really quiet farm-style home in sleepy Darfield outside of Christchurch. It was amazing to look out at this backyard view every morning, but by this point I was severely missing the comforts of my home. City lights, sharp angles, honking horns and raised voices. Then I got an email from a graduate program I had been accepted to, inviting me to an orientation back in New York. So I used that as an excuse to truncate my trip. I decided to go home. Arriving back in New York was simultaneously exhilarating and terrifying. I had sublet my apartment, so I was still a house guest, surfing on various friends' couches, but I did notice that as I walked around the city, my feet did feel a little lighter. I was a little less stuck. I continued to meditate. And then I did something pretty big. I committed, financially and emotionally, to pursuing my master's in counseling at Hunter College. And this act was the first I had taken in a while that wasn't about running from or getting out of something. That was about staying put, about building a foundation and seeing the earth as something to hold me rather than pull me down. But still, I had some more traveling to do, so I booked a few more one-way tickets just to address that last bit of wanderlust. Bolivia, Peru, Colombia. And here I know I am lighter, freer in my body and my mind. I spent Christmas Eve on a 12-hour layover in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, with the beautiful Floridians, weird Floridians, and some quality time with family and friends in Canada, and by early January, I was back in New York on a path to becoming a school counselor. A couple months later, I gave the commencement speech at my graduation ceremony. So, I have a bit of a confession to make. Full disclosure, I thought I was going to share with you stories from each one of these places, all these stops I made on this journey, and each one bringing you some pearl of wisdom leading towards my eventual and total enlightenment. But yeah, not so much. What I really want to share with you is that it's not always the places you go to or the people that you meet that pull you out of that sticky place. It is always, always a trust in yourself, in your ability to take action, and to remember that you are never stuck. Scared, perhaps, maybe a little sad, and still, or motionless, but always, always able to take one step, and then another after that.